Okay, live stream, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm pinning myself here. All right. Welcome to everyone. I will just offer my pranams first. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Godadaya Pushpavanto Chitrasando Tamodam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we continue with the topic on the role of the Vaisnavi saints in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And I was a little bit reconsidering what to present, because it felt like, although it's very purifying to read the biographies of the Vaisnavi saints, at the same time, it's probably nice to also a little bit open the discussion about the nowadays topics on Vaishnavi gurus. And very kindly, Sharada has helped me with the question she has raised from the last lecture. And the question was about whether how comes that after Mahaprabhu, who made such a reform, etc., the female gurus were not more present. And I went through several lectures of Guru Maharaj, and I have found some explanations from his side about the topic. And it is very interesting that he points it out that practically from Mahaprabhu on, the main two lineages of gurus, one is from Janava, which is of course the female guru here, and she has given the Madhurya Rasa. And then the other one is coming from Nityananda Prabhu with the Sakya Rasa. And his son, Virabhadra Goswami, he was influenced by both of them practically. And he also gave a very deep explanation. I'm very grateful to listen to, because there is a lot of preaching, or a lot of misreading of the scriptures, where it was more stressed on the Varna ashram system, the idea of how the women should behave. But practically, bhakti is beyond the Varna ashram system, as Guru Maharaj is always explaining. And here Mahaprabhu was preaching the Prema Dharma, and it goes beyond the Varna ashrama. And practically, if we have to follow this Varna ashram system, then bhakti would be covered by karma, be like more powerful. And that is why there is no consideration of man or a woman to be an acharya. But anyway, it was rather a social system, like to answer the question why there is no more Vaishnavis who are gurus. And the reason is that that practically the social system is in India was like this, and the female gurus were rather an exception. But nowadays we can see that the things are changing. Practically we are like after Prabhupada, and then the next generation of his disciples were like the first Western generation gurus. We are the next one, their disciples. And it's already, our social system is completely different from the one in India. And most probably this will change in the future. And there will be much more Guru Vaishnavis. And as a whole, for me, it was a complete relief to listen to Guru Maharaj's classes on the topic, because if one should constantly think of limiting oneself to that a woman should always be protected by a man or her son or her father, husband, etc., and that's practically not our culture here in the West, nor it's like on both sides there is no such a mentality, man or a woman. And so in this case, he has also commented that it is there should be no difference from which level a man or a woman can be a guru, meaning if they're from Nishta, for example. There are many claims recently that women should be pure devotees and then they can become gurus, but men can be from lower level. So in this case, he also explained that this should not be the case. And there are many other different explanations he has given on this exact topic, but practically this is only some part I'm mentioning, and that's not exactly our our topic to speak about the female gurus nowadays. So today I have prepared to read to you about the next big Vaishnavi and very famous, Janava Mais, of course, the absolute leader in this sense. But Ganga Mata Goswamini is the next one. And she's very famous, although as a whole, not so much information is gathered. I mean, there's here and there in some places one can find. So I will read you or explain you about her story, which is also very interesting. And she was also, interestingly, she was also giving initiations to some disciples and Babajis coming from the line of Shyamananda Prabhu, which were wearing this Nipura tilak. And so she was really prominent. And she was actually a princess of the king Naresh Narayan. And she was called Sachi Devi in the beginning. And from the very early childhood, she showed devotion to the Lord. She refused to get married. And then she wanted only to serve Krishna. After her parents passed away, she took the responsibility to govern the kingdom. And after that, she just left the kingdom and she went on a pilgrimage because she was searching for a spiritual master. She reached Vrindavan and she met there very famous Vaishnava scholar, Haridas Pandit. He directly refused her to give her diksha because she was from royal descendant, but he saw that she was very determined, because she was actually she started to follow big austerities, and she was just begging from door to door, and then he finally gave her initiated her into the mantra. After that, she went to live in Radhakunda with Lakshmi Priya. This was an elder god sister of her who was chanting 192 rounds of Mahamantra every day. And they were going every day to make parikrama around Govardhan. And after that, she went to Jagannath Puri to restore the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And there she every day lectured on Srimad Bhagavatam and became very popular. She accepted many disciples, including brahmanas and kings. There is a story because there was a Ganga Sagar Mela, and she decided she wanted very much to take bath exactly in this. Ganga Sagar is the place where Ganga is entering the Indian Ocean, and it's a holy place, of course, where there are melas going on. And on the night before the mela, Lord Jagannath spoke to her in a dream, and he advised her to bath in Shweta Ganga tank. This is Shweta Ganga is in Puri, close to the temple of Jagannath, and she entered the pond there, and very strong currents suddenly, in a mysterious way, have transported her to this faraway place where thousands of pilgrims were bathing in Ganga. This is like the place where the Mela was going on. And few seconds later, she was carried by the waters directly inside the temple of Lord Jagannath. And there, the pandas, these are those who take care of Jagannath, when they heard some disturbance, they found her standing before the altar of Jagannath, and they thought that she's a thief. And she was thrown into jail. And later that night, in a dream, Lord Jagannath told the king that my dear devotee Sachi Devi wanted to bath in the Ganga Sagar Tirtha, and because Ganga comes from my lotus feet, when Sachi entered Shweta Ganga, she reached my lotus feet. The pandas who are under your control abused her. Now you and all the pandas should beg her forgiveness and take initiation from her. Otherwise, I will no longer accept any seva from the pandas, and you will experience a result. So Lord Jagannath also inspired the king to donate the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to Sachi, and she accepted in order to fulfill the order of her guru. Sachi Devi also became very famous after this in all the Jagannath Puri as Ganga Mata Goswami, because Ganga washed her directly by the desire of Jagannath. So the king and all the brahmanas of the temple became her disciples. About Haridas Pandit, who is her guru, there is an explanation in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's explained that his guru was Ananta Acharya, who was disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. And so this is like the line they're explaining, and it is said that Gadadhar's Ananta Acharya's body was always overwhelmed by ecstasy of Krishna Prema, and he was a reservoir of all good qualities. And Haridas Pandit actually first he put Sachi on test to see how qualified she, and he told her to live as a pure devotee in Vrindavan and to be constantly absorbed in bhajan. So so her determination and her austerities were so big that everyone became impressed, and the guru himself. Just a moment. The other elder disciple who he brought together to accompany Gangamata Goswamini, which is Lakshmi Priya. She was also like very fixed in her bhajan, so they both could support each other and make all the parikramas and everything. Also, in the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, it is said that Gangamata Goswamini, she was worshipping the special Damodara Shalagram, which was left there by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya himself. And there she established the first class worship of the Shalagrama, according to all the traditions. And exactly her Siddhantic interpretations on Bhagavatam were like attracting many people, many devotees there. So that's why they were coming not only from Puri, but from much more distant places. And the king's name at that time was Mukunda Dev. And he was having also this darshan of Jagannath. And he wanted to donate her a place on the banks of the Ganges, because this was the desire of Jagannath. And also, yeah, so there is a ghat specifically called after her in Puri. There is 2 verses of the story practically, but in both the king and all the brahmanas there are becoming specifically her disciples. And so Sachidevi was very happy because she realized that that all this which happened was the pastime of Lord Jagannath. And she gave blessings to everyone after this case, after this what happened. And there is also a famous story of one Smarta Brahmana. His name was Mahidhar Sharma, and he came to the banks of Shweta Ganga to worship his ancestors. But he heard about the glories of Gangamata Goswamini, and he was very eager to have her darshan. So after accepting him, Gangamata has asked him what's the purpose of his visit. And he explained that he came to pray for his ancestors, and he wanted to listen to her explanation of Siddhanta of Bhagavatam. So he was very astonished after hearing her giving the discourse on Bhagavatam, and he asked for a shelter at her lotus feet, and on a very auspicious day, she initiated him into the Radha Krishna mantra of 10 syllables. So after that, he preached in all the area where he lived, throughout whole Bengal. There is in the yard of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house are both samadhis of him and of her. I hope next time, if I have the opportunity to show you the pictures, I will be able to show you some of those. And there is another very famous story about her, because in Jaipur, there is a deity which is called Sri Shyamarai, and it was worshipped by a Brahmin. And one night, the deity appeared to the Brahmin in his dream and told him that he should take him to Puri and hand him to Gangamata Goswamini. So following the order of the deity, the Brahmin went to Puri and presented Sri Shamarai to her. And on the order of Gangamata Goswamini, the king renovated the old palace of Sri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and she established there Sri Shamarai, and he's still being worshipped there today. And there is a small note from Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada about Gangamata Goswamini, and the line which come from Haridas and Ananta Acharya. It is there described that he says that Ananta Acharya was actually Sudevi, one of the 8 principal gopis, and this is stated in Gaura Ganodesha Dipika. And there is also another statement that he was also formerly Ananta Acharya, Sudevi Gopi in Vraja, and one second. And also Vinoda Manjari. And there is said that several Siddha Babajis were initiated in her line, and they can be traced back to Gadadhar Pandit. So in this sense, she was very much recognized there in the whole Vaishnava society. I have also found very interesting information, which I'll be able to read you next time, about more current Vaishnavis from previous century. And they were very famous, especially for their Arjuna, how they were worshipping their deities and the relationship they had. And there's a very nice investigation on a more like modern Vaisnavi Saints from a German devotee, and he explains that out of the 12 given in a, it's like more, it's a book from previous century written about the famous Vaishnavas of the last centuries. Out of 12 Vaishnavi saints, 5 are in Gaudiya lineage. So we will also read about them a little bit. And if there is a desire about it, we can also speak a little more about the topic of the female gurus and women in the nowadays. But as per Guru Maharaj, most probably now more and more Vaishnavis will be also having this role, and it's always a question of realization, of course, and qualities. This was everything I want to share with you for today. If there are any questions, comments, anything you would like to add. There is also Guru Maharaj mentioning that in the past, practically those who were taking initiation in a Vaishnava lineage, they were taking away their Brahmana thread in order to show that they get out from the Varna ashram system. So it was also very interesting what Guru Maharaj is also following nowadays.
Sharada?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, yes, I was just going to ask that. Yeah, sorry, Paul. I was just going to ask about that. Did they have the sacred thread? Did the Vaishnavis have the sacred thread or not?
What did you ask? If the Vaishnavas, if the women?
Yes, had the sacred thread. They still have the same, everything the same.
As far as I know, it was only men who were having the thread, and they, after taking initiation, they were removing it because this in the Varna ashram system, practically always man is the acting as a guru, so to say, and shelter of the woman. So she's always sheltered under father, husband, then son. So those brahmanas who were taking away their thread, they were like giving up this, but women were not wearing it. So as per their social system.
Oh, I see. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, and Guru Maharaj also, as far as I know, I've heard from Padmanabh Maharaj, he has stopped giving this thread with the idea that it was Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada who has established this, and he put it exactly for the reason that to get more recognition and more respect. At that time, it was historically how the circumstances were, because we know that the line after Mahaprabhu was distorted. There were Apasampradayas popping up, and practically Bhaktivinoda Thakur also made a lot of effort to make it more respectful, recognized, etc. That's why also Hari Bhakti Vilas was written the way it is. And also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he established this thread in order to gain respect from the Brahmanas of the society and as a whole of all the layers of the society, because they respected the same. It was spoken about the sannyas cloths, no, and the position of sannyas, because they were respecting, recognizing if somebody is sannyas or somebody is wearing a brahmana thread, etc. It was considered more elevated, etc. So at that time, he established this. Although there is a famous, he's giving. This was a Vaishnava Ke called. It's a small booklet of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and there is explained how. That Vaishnava is much more elevated by a Brahmana. He spoke in front of all the Brahmanas there. He first glorified all the qualities, the Brahmanas, and they were very, very pleased. And that after that, he explained how much more elevated is Vaishnava. He's having not just the qualities of Brahmanas, but also the devotion to Krishna, that bhakti is much higher than the Varnashram. And we know the famous shloka there that we chant from Mahaprabhu, one of his famous quotes, that he's saying there, I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Kshatriya, Vaishya, etc. So in this connection, establishing this doctrine and this idea and bringing bhakti above and beyond this dharma and varnashrama, so after nowadays, we don't have in the West specifically this Brahmana thread recognition, or nobody knows what it is. So it's a bit like going back, like Guru Maharaj is doing now, going back to this time when they were like removing their Brahmana thread and being like released from all recognition of your ashrama or your varna or anything, but entering into the Vaishnava tradition in this way.
Thank you. Yes, it's kind of interesting where the objects, whether the objects were passed down or not, because they usually were in families, weren't they? The Shalagram Shila and the thread. But thank you. Yes, it's just
You mean that
happening. Thank you.
Yeah, when you worship the Shalagram Shila, you need to have Brahmana thread.
Yes, I think so. That's what, as far as I have heard, anyway. Yes, it's usually together and usually passed down in the families. So, so in this case, when there's a change, that there's a change of that too, and it's good that Bhakti will prevail over this. It's just good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I do not know. I have no information about the connection of worship of Shalagram Shila and Brahmana thread. Maybe somebody else who knows more about it could.
That's okay. Yeah. As long as Bhakti prevails, that's the main thing. Thank you.
But thanks for the question and for the comments.
Haribol.
Haribol. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments. Thank you very much for...
I think Ganga Shakti was trying to say something.
Oh, yes.
You have to go in the English channel if you want to speak, Ganga Shakti.
Yes, it is like to click on...
No, not you, just Ganga Shakti.
Yeah, I'm explaining to her to click on language and English and mute original audio. If you... Now, click English and maybe a problem with the mic?
I think so.
She also had yesterday, I think. Okay, anyway, she can ask me and I can present it next time to find. I also got a very nice article from Shimananda Prabhu, so it's interesting. It's from the Jiva Institute, and I will study on it. It's yeah, about the number of male and female gurus in the history, how it was developing, etc. And it's also interesting, so I will be able to bring it for the next time. Okay. Thank you very much. Haribol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyavacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo. Guru Parampara ki jai, Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai. Haribol.
Haribol.
Sriman Sadhvi Dasi ki jai.